LaTB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LaTB Podcast.
And we are live.
Welcome back to LaTB MMA Podcast. As always, I'm your host, E, here with the best co-hostess I could hope for, laying it down on the books, in the production. Cheney, how have you been since we last met at the round table after last Saturday's 7-fight card?
I think I'm doing all right. I think I am hanging in there. I got to watch MMA Marks last night, so I know all the picks not to go with. And now I'm ready to sit here with you. They actually didn't believe me, and they were mocking me, calling me a casual, because I said I really don't know the cards until I sit here at LaTB, unless it's a big main event like, Woodley Covington. I know that's coming up, but otherwise I wait for here. And I mean, all the fans of our show could attest that I don't know shit going on until I get here. So how are you doing?
Staying informed, I guess, because I'm up to date with most of this stuff all the time. I don't have a life. Apparently it's MMA. So it's a fun one because I'm enjoying myself. All I do is talk about fights on the little spare time I have, and we have been producing nothing but fights. We've had a little bit of lackluster cards, but I feel like we got a couple on the way, especially that Woodley Covington fight card. That is a pay-per-view. Really surprised that it's going to be free, so I don't mind. I'll get the clearest reception that way, so definitely excited for that.
I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at
JG's
all.
are raiding the party with 2 Raiders. Thank you very much, Jay. Throwing it up there. A FPC alum, a peer, I guess, coming in first season. Jay's been holding it down hard on the FPC.
And if you haven't checked out Jay's chat or just gotten the opportunity to hang out with Jay, one, he is mildly woke. He knows what's going on in the world. And he also is a really sweet guy. I know guys don't like to be called sweet, but it's okay if
He's
a
a
lady
fucking
says
killer. And if you get around him or his family, he's going to take you out like Mike Tyson. So
Exactly.
JG's are
Exactly.
repping in here. But you know what we're all here to do. If there's nothing, I mean, we're always down to talk MMA. Is there any MMA news other than the fight card that's going on? Because we have so many fight cards, I don't really hear too much other news. It's usually just kind of like, hey, we got another card coming up. Start looking at Dana White Contender Series, which I don't bet for a reason. There's a reason I don't bet that. It's too hard to find tape on UFC debuters, let alone guys that aren't in the UFC.
Yeah, and have to spend that much time. I can't even imagine betting it. You might as well just bet horse racing.
There is some favorites that is easier to pick, but there's more underdogs that come through, and really interesting. So, other UFC news, anything else other than
UFC news? I know.
There is.
I want. Oh yeah, Nick Diaz is coming back.
Oh, nobody gives a shit about that. Nobody.
I do.
No.
I'm interested.
No.
Apparently, he's weighing in at 165, 170, just seeing what his body's like getting down that far. And there's a couple of pictures out on social media of him and Nate standing by each other, and they're like the same size. And that's weird to see, like Nate's kind of gotten bigger over time, and Nick is on the little end. So apparently he's coming back and he's looking at 165, 170. And then Conor McGregor tweeted out, line them up.
Ugh. Yuck. I'm so done with all those guys until they get in there and fight for me. Quick response to JG's are here. I watch every Dana White Contender Series. I just don't bet them. And I'm not going to go put my bets out there just because it's too sketchy, but it is some fun fights on there. I like what you're saying. Yeah, we're going to see some big names potentially back in there, but is it Conor coming in only after Diaz, who's like, all right, I guess, because his brother wants to fight him. Masvidal's got matches lined up. You watch them on ESPN Plus. Is the Contender Series fight there, Jay Jeezer? So you got to subscribe $5-6 a month in order to catch those, plus all the other fights. But with the Nick Diaz stuff, I'm not too excited. They say this all the time. Connor only comes back in when he's got fights that he can win on the lineup or on the shoot
You
at the end
know,
of it.
everybody's a
The
hater.
fighters,
If I said it was GSP, everyone is woo GSP when he does the exact same shit. So I just don't understand why everyone's. There's certain guys that are
it's not
bigger
everyone.
than belts, and they don't need to go for belts. They're just there because we know if Nick or Nate Diaz get inside the octagon, and Conor McGregor for that matter, it is going to be a fun fight. That's why they have all these fans. It isn't the country they're from. It isn't their attitude. Maybe their attitude. Some people love the talking shit in there, but even the talking shit just adds to the fact that it's going to be super fun fights. Nothing against Khabib. But maybe it took 20 fights for people to catch on to the style, whereas if you punch somebody in the face, people seem to come around quickly, especially if you're like, I'm going to punch you in the face and knock you out in the first round, and then I do it. But then there's the Diaz brothers, the opposite turn. I'm going to knock you out, and then you totally beat me. I'm the best, motherfucker. I'm the best in here.
So definitely some polarizing figures in there. I also am in the boat that they were the pinnacle of the sport at time, but there's a lot of young up and comers that are willing and ready to take that and willing to fight. These guys have just been a little too inactive for me. But the real news over the weekend, the retirement fight on the horizon. I'm gonna get a little teary eyed, but my girl's back. She's back, baby. The bitch is back. We got Betch
The
Kohea.
bitch is back in town. The bitch is back in town.
We got her for one more fight. The UFC decided to let her go on the way out on top. She's got a winnable fight. I don't even know who it is against, but you better believe I might be putting a little Skrilla on that. She's going to be trying to end it on a high note.
I feel like it's for you. Who else is it for? Who else is it
There's
for?
like three of us. There's like three of us out there.
Well, I love Betch now. I feel like everybody kind of loves Betch now. It's like you've done this thing. It's almost like Juice with Roxanne Modafferi, who
Trendsetters.
You almost cannot say Roxanne Modafferi without saying Juice. It almost goes together. For me, it's like certain people, no one ever pays attention to them. They're just on the outskirts, and then somebody who's in your circle or in your shit really digs them, and it brings all this attention and awareness. Even if it's somebody you're like, I used to hate that motherfucker. Now I can't get enough. And I even noticed it with certain podcasts, and it could be somebody like Cheeto Vera. Not everyone was a Cheeto fan. I feel like every day, more and more Cheeto fans. And that is exactly who I'd like to compare Betch Kohea to. No, I'm just kidding. What a weird, Betch. But Betch being back, no one gave a fuck about Betch. She just made people vomit, but it's almost like your tongue-in-cheek love of her made everyone get the tongue-in-cheek love, and now everyone wants to see that Betch shake that butt.
One last time. She could go on a retirement run where she has like 3 retirement fights and I'd watch every single one of them. So
she's got like your Rolling Stones.
Absolutely. She's my Nardiev in there that actually panned out.
Nardiev's going to be back, I'm telling you. And when Nardiev comes back, everyone's going to sleep on him, and he's going to be an underdog, and that's when he's going to come in, and we're going to be like, we tried to tell you them hips.
Absolutely.
Because now it's a we. After a certain amount of time with LaTB, it becomes a we.
So, over the long haul, those have been working out well for us. The people we ride or die with usually is with the skill, not always just them hips. But I have to regress. There is a fight card that we got to get to in Vegas 10. We've already had 10 of these in the post-COVID world. If we didn't learn anything from the last fight card is just because we have 12 scheduled doesn't mean we're going to get all 12. We could easily end up with 9, 8, or even 7 fights by fight night. So you got to be up to date. You got to see the lines. If you're playing DraftKings, you have to look the hour before the lines start because these fighters are falling out day of because of the COVID or their corners catching COVID, and they just scratched the whole team. So we can only do so much. We'll probably end up putting some stuff on that Twitterverse, letting people know to some extent. But, sometimes people falling off them DraftKings lineups because you didn't check your cards. It ain't my fault. Me winning first place, it it is what it is sometimes. So
Fight Pick Championship, how did we all do? I don't feel like I did great last week on my fights. There was no first place in my did you get first place?
unfortunately did not. If you want to know some of the disgusting scorecards we had on there, we had Alpha taking in first, the big pink weenie coming back in there one more time hard with 60 points, tied with MMA Marks. Buddy there at 60, 55 points. Ricky, all right, seems like a setup already. I'm just telling you right now, this seems fake. They must have doctored it. They must have mailed in these freaking ballots because the numbers are off. That was the top three. Jimmy T coming in fourth there. Evan Montgomery with the strong showing at 30 points. LaTB not doing so hot this time around. Juicer.
I loved it. I did not feel like I did good. Did you feel like you did good?
We both tied at 20. I did not think I did well.
I didn't feel like I did good. My whole night shit the bed. I felt like for every card that fell off, I was like, there's one less one I'm going to get right. It was just it didn't feel like a good fight night. It wasn't good on DraftKings for me. It wasn't good on Tapology. You got to be gracious in defeat.
It was a short amount of fights with a lot of replacements in there. JG's are like many other players in there. OD Kush, who I thought might have been a little sneaky player in there, all missed their picks, getting big fat zeros unless they didn't pick a fight right. But JG's are coming in with all sorts of phone cracking issues, supposedly. Yeah, I believe it when I see it. I got multiple computers. So does everybody else. You can get them damn picks in. So, big fat zero. Maybe you learn from it next time. You get them picks in. You get them in when you need to. I'm just teasing. I know. It can happen in there.
The worst is when, like, that's where it's like we were kind of, I'm going to talk a little shit on us right now. We almost got a bonus. We got a bonus. You and I got a bonus because we were the only motherfuckers of the whole Fight Pick Championship who turned in all of our picks on time. All year. And you know what the worst part is? That bonus was probably worth 15 points. Because the times where it really would have counted for me, where I needed every single effing point, I could not capitalize anything. But that is why I wore this shirt today. Because I wanted to pay homage to Alpha.
The big pink weenie himself in there. Dang it. So it is something that, real life happens. You got to get in there. You got to figure it out. Get those. And if anything, if you're on that Discord server with all of the other peers, I feel like LaTB over here has been doing a favor for you guys. I feel like I posted like 5 fallouts of fight to maybe see if we could get some replaced. Obviously didn't happen, but your boy's looking out for all the Fight Pick Championships, just saying.
You know what, though? I'm glad at some point, just because I've been on the end of changing cards, at some point it has to stop. At some point, it's like it's not fair to the person who's trying to get the computer updated, and it's not fair to the people making their picks, because then everybody could be the same where they miss out on a fight or two, or you could have thought your picks were in, and you had plenty of time to go back and adjust them. You didn't know the card changed, and it cost you, and that's kind of not fair either because you went and did all the right things. So I don't want for Kevin to have to do that so frequently that it actually ends up start screwing people. And it's shitty on him. It's a lot of work. I mean, I don't have a clue what he does on his end. I don't know, but I just imagine.
You got to be up to date on it for sure. So I understand if those fight cards fall out or it changes up and he just doesn't re-up it and you now get 3 picks. Understandable, but who knows? And you can't expect everyone to get them in before that. But regardless, people had time, and there was like 6 people that didn't make their picks in there. JG's are throwing out there saying that he was rooting for you, Weak Neck Baby, to win this whole thing. So someone's hoping you get your picks in on time out there.
I'm going to get them in on time. But every single Friday, I have a panic attack. like all laxadays because for old Fight Pick Championship it was like, oh shit. So I'll be sitting on my couch 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then all of a sudden you might have to deal with my dogs barking because my
Oh, that
feet
sounded
hurt.
like your fight pick alarm.
That means my feet hurt. That means those are for if you want to show your age out there. So yeah. Anyways, if you want to jump into it, and I'll mute my mic for a second while that goes off, and you can jump into the card.
So we have a fun-filled event here with UFC Vegas 10, a 12-card bout, but that is to be determined. Again, you got to watch weigh-ins. You got to watch all this stuff. Make sure that these lines are proper by the time it's done. But here we got a 12-card bout, as I was saying. It's going to be headlined by Waterson versus Angela Hill. And a really interesting headlining note that a lot of people are talking about is Angela Hill being the first black woman to headline a UFC event. And just like the first women's fight in UFC history, it was not Ronda Rousey by herself in there. Liz Carmouche was the second half. And if I know better, she's half black, half Mexican. So I'm just saying, full black, like what is full black? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little stickler in here, but I really hate that they're going with the black route instead of being like just a badass fighter. Like, why do they have to make it historical? Hey, absolutely. And I'm just gonna say there's a difference between Hispanic and Latino. Look it up. I'm gonna throw that in there. Why couldn't they lean on that? Your grandparents were probably some of the first to be abducted by aliens. How about that? Way better headline. Well, I thought I thought that one of them was white though. Wasn't Peggy Hill white? Right? Absolutely, but that tells you at least two things. She has some white in her because I know it's not Peggy Hill. It's not Peggy Hill, but the mom was white. Barney was not. So one of the first interracial couples to also see UFOs. Just throwing that out there. And she's probably an alien. No, her grandma's absolutely white. She ate all black, just like Liz Cartouche. Alien Anunnaki blood. That's what she got in her. So that's the headlining card. That hole we dug ourselves into. We got to dig all the way up. So we got to start from the bottom, get all the way to the top. And it starts at 125 pounds with Sabina Mazo coming in against Justine Quiche. Yo Romero approved. Quiche coming in with a 7-2 record. The reason I say Yo Romero is you might remember that Stoolgate. Quiche had her own Stoolgate in there. Look back at the tape. Go to that E at Zol tonight on Twitter. You'll see everything I'm talking about. Yo Romero approved. All I'm saying. So Quiche is coming. So Quiche coming in off a win against Lucy Pudilova 7 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Kim and Herring in that Herring match where she was covered in it literally. She's got a couple wins in there over Yoder and Nina Asneroff in a decision. That Asneroff fight, I think, is what skews a lot of people's mind, and mine as well, because us here at LaTB, Nina has been making nothing but money for us for a long time here. She's a constant underdog, and her beating her really put Keisha in another level for me, where she kind of outperformed in that fight. Against Pudilova, she showed a lot of output, shows that she's a veteran, mainly a striker on the ground. She can't get out grappled, and Herring really showed against that, having minimal takedown defense. She just doesn't have stopping power. She's just kind of a decision fighter. That's what Quiche does, and has serviceable volume. Mazo in here coming in with an 8-1 record, only losing in the UFC to Marina Moroz in a decision. And then after that, getting a win over Shayna Dobson and JJ Aldridge in a split. Mazo has a lot more output, can keep it where she wants to, striking, has a bit more power. She can rock these women a little more, and that's where I feel like if she's losing the output advantage, she's just hurts. She wears on the opponents a little more. She'll cut them more, just shows a little more power. So this is going to be a coin flip. I think the line's actually super off at minus 270 for Mazo. Quiche, you got to give her a lot more respect than that. With that, I don't have Quiche winning, but I do think it should be in like the minus 150 range. This is super sketchy fight. We tell you guys to stay away from these for a reason. I'm not playing this on either one. I don't see them being high scorers on DraftKings regardless. Give me Mazo decision. Who do you think you're picking in this one?
Well, I don't know when I turned off my mic when my dogs were barking, but I don't know.
You were on the whole time.
I was on for you, but I don't know if I was recording myself. It's all separate. There's so many different switches. Anyways, so there might be a part in the actual audio where you don't hear us talking about Angela Hill's grandparents. They only hear your side. It's just you. The aliens took it out. And it also might not have anything about us talking about first. It'll just have you talking about Liz Carmouche, which is probably for the best. Everything happens for a reason. It's probably something from the universe, like a gift. They're like, you were muted right now on purpose so you don't get internet hate.
So at least you gotta know a little. You didn't have to listen to me for this one. You've seen both of these ladies in here. You can tell me how gross of a fight this is.
Quiche is a big underdog. Some would say, like, when Quiche gets in there, she might shit the bed. But she actually did good against Pudilova in the last fight, and nobody thought she was going to come out looking that good. And it was one of the best versions of Justine Quiche we've really seen in a long time. Mazo, she made easy work of JJ as far as, what the showing everyone thought. But I guess everyone was super high on Mazo. You were one of the only people here that we knew JJ was going to be a little more of a fight for her.
I agree. I was going to say I love JJ, by the way. Would you know that?
I know. I hate to say this. I almost think Quiche is up there with JJ Aldridge, if not.
I think so. I think this line is super off.
I do too.
Super off.
I want to pick Justine Quiche by decision on
Me too.
this. I really think they're heavy pushing Mazo here. What is the output?
The difference here, let me pull up the quick matchup stats. I absolutely do. For Mazo, she actually has a 6.4 strike output per minute, 6 strikes per minute, compared to Quiche's 4. So 2 more strikes. And Mazo has the power. That's the thing. Mazo, out of both fighters, hurts people a little bit more. But the line is 100% off. It's too expensive. You got to take a shot on the dog if you want to play it on
Gosh,
DraftKings.
the people that I just think the pressure situations, the ring IQ is going to go to Quiche a little bit. I think this is going to be definitely a close split. I want to pick Quiche decision. The crowd swayed me with Mazo, but I 100% agree with you. Maybe 150, minus 150.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, I
That's
agree
exactly
with you.
what I said.
Sorry if I was half paying attention. It was because I was worried about the audio.
The
but
muting, it's all good.
And I
But
did
here on
remember
Draft,
that you said Quiche shits her pants.
she does in there. Mazo's going to be 9,200 on DraftKings, the minus 270 favorite against Justine Quiche's 7,000 even. Again, big fat stay away on average. Mazo scores 78 points against Quiche's 63. No, there's 12 fights. Even if other fights fall off and it goes to 10 or 9 fights, I'm still not looking to put this fight on my DraftKings lineup.
I agree.
So then we move on
If
to
anything, I would put Quiche as if you end up with only enough money to afford somebody, you might be able to put 4 mad slayers on there, and Justine Quiche will still get you a comfortable 40.
You're absolutely right on there. If there's a play, it is that Quiche side for 7,000 because it's more than likely going to be a decision fight. So there's going to be a lot of volume, even though she has less volume. She's still going to, I agree, having that 40 to 50 point range. So out of those two, super gross one. We move to a much funner one where we have Brian Bam Bam Barberina coming in against Anthony Ivy. This is a profile fight at 170 pounds. Bam Bam in here being a longtime veteran against the 8-3 Aquaman. Ivy coming in against Christian Aguilera and lost 2 months ago via hooks. Brutal knockout for the favorite there. He comes in with a ton of power, does Ivy, but he gasses. Going back and watching the tape, even when I did the tape study against Aguilera, I was thinking the same thing. If Ivy doesn't finish you in that first round, early second round, he's cashed. His takedown defense, even though it's there, it's very sloppy. He keeps his hands down super low at his waist, and his power's nearly gone. And that's essentially what he relies on, is his athleticism and his power. And against Brian Barberina, somebody who's fought contenders, he hasn't won those contenders fights, but they weren't one-sided fights. There were fights that would go drag out fight of the year type fights. And Barberina would have a good showing, even if he lost by TKO. I mean, he's got Randy Brown in there that he lost to against recently. Might not look so good for some people, but I like him. Losing to Luque in the fight of the year, a fight that he was winning at a point in time, beating Ellenberger, losing to Leon Edwards in a decision, beating Proctor, multiple other 3 rounders, I'm sorry, in there that have gone to decision. But the output for Barberina is so high here that Barberina isn't the bigger power puncher, but in that second and third round, when he's really starting to go on all of the cylinders, I think it's going to be a cardio kill, and I think Ivy's going to more fold and give up than that one hitter walk off knockout. It's not going to be that. It's going to be Ivy curled up on the ground, not able to breathe from body shots and just ground and pound. But I think Barberina rolls here. I do like the price tag for him. I'm not going to be able to bet it at minus 275, but it's justified. That last one, Mazo, is not. Brian Barberina is justified here. The line's right. Give me Barberina in a TKO round number 2.
I 100% agree with you. And then I want to ask, are we biased because we love Brian Barberina here? We've made so much money on him, but this is what else I'll say. We don't pick him when we think he's going to lose. I don't think we just blindly go with Brian Barberina. I think we know his game plan well enough. And I also have Brian Barberina KO round 2. I do think it's a cut you or kill you by 1,000 cuts, and I think he's going to do it quickly. I think it would take longer for a guy with a better gas tank, like you're saying. I think Ivy's going to have the more power here going into the first round. I think Brian Barberina has the better hands, even though he kind of seems messy. I think he has some kicks to throw in there. I think he has a nasty little clinch game. I like Brian Barberina everywhere in this fight, except the power. And he can't get caught. He can get involved within the first 2-3 minutes of the fight in a nasty exchange where he's not paying attention and he's going for the quick knockout, and he could get caught. But I think Brian Barberina plays it smart here. He's the guy that nobody likes to think about it, but I think he's a top 10 dude in the division. He's like, I don't know if he'll ever make a run, but I think he's the epitome of a solid gatekeeper. So give me Brian Barberina KO late round 2.
I would agree with that, but I would say he's in that top 15, maybe not top 10, but absolutely a gatekeeper, especially for these guys that might not be UFC caliber, which Ivy showed us he's not against Aguilera, who just recently came off of a bad knockout recently as well. So I am definitely siding him. We know we've already talked about it enough on DraftKings. You're going to end up paying $9,000
over a year since that knockout. You know how much we love time off after a knockout. So over a year, love that for Brian Barberina.
For the 2 months against Ivy's knockout.
Extra. All the more reason.
On DraftKings, 9,000 even for Barberina against Ivy, 7,200. I think you can put Ivy anywhere, even though he does have that potential for TKO round number 1. I just don't see it happening here. Ricky MMA coming in saying Barberina sucks, LOL. We got a troll on the boards, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what they sound like. Ricky's MMA Marks coming in. Holla at your boy. What do you do on DraftKings? Because I'm going to find room with Barberina. I'm going to be putting him in my lineups.
I picture him like a high 70, low 80 point scorer on DraftKings. That's how I always picture him on my cards. I never seen him get over 100. I could be totally wrong. And it's weird for him being this high priced. So that is an odd play for Brian Barberina, but how can I not play him somewhere?
He has scored over 100 points twice in his career, multiple 90-point scores as well, 114 and 120 against Ellenberger and Proctor. So average of 72 points for Barberina. I think all of it's justified, but again, just going over some of the same old stuff. Evil Twin is the hero for Ricky over here. We know this guy's drunk. Doesn't he work? What is he doing all day? Is he day drinking? I guess I'm in that boat.
Speaking of Evil Twin, is he going to pop on today? I mean, it doesn't have to be now. I'm not sure. It's always frightening.
I can send out an APB and see what I get. I'm sure he'll be able to squeeze in a good 10 to 15 minutes, especially if he's doing it all Chael Sonnen via car monologue.
And I think once we have the new branding of the new show and all the new streams set up and everything official, which I don't think it'll be it'll be in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to figure out what kind of intro we want, blah, 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 blah. But an Evil Twin will have his own logo, and you can go follow him if you want to get some. I just think if you go with the opposite of whatever Evil Twin's picking since he's been on this show, you in the money. It hadn't been great. I'm just saying it hasn't been great. And I was given because when he came on, he's like, my percentages are this. I was like, damn, that is crazy. And then when you said, oh, he pads with sure bets on Bellator, I was Bellator like, pick. What? I never cheat. That would be like putting a cheat code in my Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Like mine's all bullshit UFC. Even if I don't agree, like I don't want to pick it at all. I'm like, I have the worst bet with this. Like if I just cut off every first fight of the night, my score would go up exponentially.
So definitely be responsible with the bets out there. Just like on the chat, these guys are putting the mortgage on the betting out there, and we're not telling you to do that. Definitely have some fun. Spend a little money. It makes the fights that much more interesting. But when you're spending your whole $150 paycheck on fight picks over the weekend, don't. Get some milk for the baby. Figure it out. Over there, Ricky's MMA. So...
Have you caught Joe Rogan's new podcast?
No, I've seen it, but I have not. Unfortunately, I just got into the Mike Tyson one the second one he did. Damn, I'm only a little bit in, and that's so good.
I love Mike Tyson.
So do I. But I'm telling you, Roy Jones. If Roy Jones has plus money on him, bet on Roy Jones. Bet on Roy Jones.
I don't know. I like Mike
Oh,
Tyson.
good. Go ahead, Brendan Schaub. Conor McGregor has a shot too.
Oh, are you comparing Conor McGregor to Mike Tyson?
I guess that is a little much. That is a little much. But it's definitely a new day in boxing right now. But really fun stuff. What about the new
You
Joe
know what?
Rogan
I
is
have to say, I
worthwhile?
was thinking about Mike Tyson in a way that he kind of was super special. He's kind of in a way like Muhammad Ali, where the fight started before you got inside the ring. And was there ever anyone more intimidating besides Ronda Rousey, walking into the ring than Mike effing Tyson in his black boots and his black trunks? Like, that was the most intimidating. I
It was.
can't
I
even
remember
fathom something.
we would have a whole party with the family just to watch a 40-second fight. And usually the dish would interrupt and they'd get half of their money back from the pay-per-view.
So I think all I'm saying is the comparison of Conor McGregor to Mike Tyson is lame, but Ronda Rousey to Mike Tyson is a lot more similar.
You're right on that. You're absolutely right on that. It is very Ronda-esque, but that's why I'm betting against Mike Tyson. He was never a precision type of fighter. Roy Jones is a IQ master, ultra funky. You're not going to be able to beat him up, but Mike Tyson said that.
He knows
So it
it.
makes
He's
it an
like, his
interesting
style
fight.
is crazy. He knows it.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
Really good one to watch in there. But another couple of murderers we got to talk about here is at 155 pounds, Frank the Tank Camacho coming in against Brock Weaver. What a fun fight in here. This fight of the night contender, if you ask me. The Chata Tuska, Brock Weaver coming in with a 15-5 record, getting a big loss in there against Roosevelt Roberts 3 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Vargas, even though it was a disqualification. He ended up easily getting outground there. Brock Weaver, I feel like, is, as we were talking about these hype fighters, that's what Brock Weaver is. He's got the perfect persona, the perfect, what is it, kind of, yeah, persona. Like, he just comes in and you were expecting kind of this Ultimate Warrior vibe, and he naturally does that, even though he doesn't play into it much. But as a fighter, he's kind of mundane. There's
I
nothing
think
that
he
really
tries to
sticks out. Does he have
knock off Jessica Andrade.
Ooh, someone's gonna send some hate mail for that one. But
I know, they're
he's
totally different.
definitely
But they're both
it's
wearing big
definitely
headdresses, right? They both wear enormous headdresses into the
I don't know
octagon.
if Brock Weaver does. I know Andrade does for sure, but definitely
Oh,
Brock Weaver has the right to out of everyone.
I thought I've
He
actually
definitely does.
seen him in a big headdress.
Oh, I'm sure he has. I'm sure. I mean, he grew up on the res and trains on the res, which can be good and bad. I actually hope that he gets into the States and actually trains with some other pros in there, because his takedown defense is abysmal. His striking is, he's known as a power puncher who doesn't have tons of power. He's more of a decision guy. I mean, he's lost to Diesel Riggs in there. I'm trying to bet against Brock Weaver every chance I get. And he would have lost that Vargas fight. And it was easy to pick him against Roosevelt Roberts as well. And it's, again, the lack of takedown defense. When he gets stuck on the ground, he can't get back up as well either. But here against Frank Camacho, somebody who likes to stand and bang, the Guam fighters coming in with a 29-9 record, just losing to James TKO 2 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Dariush submission, beating Hine, losing to Neal and Dober. Camacho, I don't know. I can't say he has a granite chin because he's been knocked out pretty badly. One from Neal 2 years ago. That was unbelievable. And that short notice replacement, James, really didn't look good afterwards. But Camacho's just trying to get paid. He's got a family to feed. He's looking to make some money in there. So he's trying to turn around in there. I don't think Brock Weaver has the one punch power. I can't say that honestly, because Camacho, we're saying with the knockouts 2 months ago, I don't like that he just went out. But here, if Camacho chooses to go to the takedowns, which he really doesn't, he could easily win this fight on the ground. I just don't know if he does, but that's why it makes this so fun. I think they just stand and bang. It kind of turns into a bare knuckle type of a boxing match in here. But I got Camacho. I want to say TKO round 2. I might end up moving that to a decision because I feel like they're both just going to stand in front of each other and do kind of rock 'em sock 'em. Their heads will be moving back, but I think the gas tank leaves Weaver a little bit earlier in here. Give me Camacho decision. Super fun fight. I could see a TKO for Camacho. Who do you think you're picking in this really not close one as far as the lines are
I'm
concerned?
glad you said bare knuckle because I kind of think it's going to be. These are two guys I don't really see as UFC caliber, but the way that the UFC is just this open door policy with Contender Series because of all these short notice fights, I don't even know what UFC caliber is anymore. So I guess they will just stand and bang. I'm saying this because I'm jinxing it. It's a jinx already, but the way these fight cards are going, this is going to end up on our Fight Pick Championship. This fight is going to end up on our Fight Pick Championship, and I just think it's the closest fight of the night that either guy could get clipped and go out or go to the nastiest decision. It could go either way. I think this is such a gross fight. I want to go with Camacho decision. I don't really see Brock Weaver as any kind of knockout artist, but I do think Camacho has a glass jaw. I don't like that he was knocked out 2 months ago, but give me Camacho by decision. You know what? I think Camacho, 3rd round knockout, but more because Weaver has 0 gas tank.
Mm-hmm. Totally right on the gas tank issue there. I do think the line is what's really changing this. And if it goes the other way and goes Weaver at minus 225, Camacho seems like such a sure pick. But the line is why it makes this fight even sketchier. If it was a coin flip minus 115, I'd be all day Camacho. It'd be so much easier to pick him. But for this big of a favorite, you don't get any really value on here on a fight that is much closer. I'd have it more comfortable at like minus 160, minus 185 Camacho here, but the line has been steamed. Really funny there. Interesting fact, though. Ricky MMA coming in and wondering if you drop trash inside the octagon, will Brock Weaver shed a single tear in there? And I will say no, because that was an Italian man faking as a Native American. So if he's Italian, maybe.
If you listen to mine and E's old conspiracy podcast, you'd know that. Or probably LaTB. We probably said that a million times.
He's not Native American. He was typecast.
But we will also say that he did end up marrying a Native woman and having half Native children and living on the res the remainder of his life, or like in New Orleans somewhere. But he, as a Native American, he did cultural appropriate and live as a Native American man. But
he was Sicilian.
Yeah, he was from Sicily, so it wasn't like he was just your run-of-the-mill, hateful American white guy.
He's that dark Italian.
I just meant because it's just not your run-of-the-mill American white hate. It was Italian white hate.
Okay. Very, very. I don't know, Ricky. Look in the mirror long enough and tell me how hard it is to get that one tear out, because real men don't cry. That's all. No, it's okay to cry. It's not that big of a deal. It's easy. It's really easy. So, getting in deep in here, where I might have to shed a tear, though, for one of these next opponents at 155 pounds. We got Alan Patrick coming in against Bobby Green. The king in here is coming in with a 26-10 record, coming off a 2-fight winning streak. Last beating Lando Venata in a decision. Prior to that, beating Clay Guida in a decision, losing to Trinaldo, losing a close. I mean, a split decision king, which should be his real name, because that's what Bobby Green does. He throws out that beautiful Philly shell style boxing. He definitely has serviceable fight IQ, good takedown defense. Grew up wrestling in high school. It's just that what we've always said with Bobby Green is when he starts talking too much in there, he can let the fight get away from him. And that's where it turns into these dirty split decision type of fights. And against Alan Patrick, the 15-2 fighters only lost in the UFC, having a ton of wins long ago, only losing to Tyson 5 years ago, rattling off 3 in a row against Hadzovic, Ray in there. As of late a year ago, almost 2 years ago now, he lost to Hot Sauce Holtzman in a brutal KO. If you want to do some fun tapes or pick study, look at Patrick's jaw breakings. If you think that who is it? Rockhold's jaw breaking was brutal, his was twice as bad. His whole front of his mouth caved in on itself. It was unbelievable that they even fixed his bottom jaw, how bad it got kicked in. But either way, Patrick's came in with a Muay Thai game out of Brazil. Training, I know, with former out of the X gym, but also with Jose Aldo in there. He is was known for Muay Thai, but really showed a lot of wrestling. Has a ton of takedowns in there. Has a big strike advantage once he gets to the ground. Has a lot of output. Really showed that off a lot early in his career. But I think as the moves gamed along, a lot of people have understood what to do against Patrick. Holtzman did it by showing some good takedown defense, and the 37-year-old is looking like he's finally starting to slow down in there. With that, all that said, I do think, as I'm saying with most of this fight card, this line is off. I think that the decision against Clay Guida and Venata is skewing people's minds. And those are decisions. They're not even knockouts. So the fact that it's minus 240 against somebody who throws in over 8 takedowns a fight, which is Patrick, and Bobby Green has serviceable takedown defense, but it's only in that 60% range. So I feel like if it gets to the ground, it can turn into a really grimy decision type of a fight. But I think Green, I feel like I can pick Patrick on this. I feel like I gotta watch weigh-ins. It's really that age and the long time in between fights, but the game plan for Patrick is gonna be grinded out in a boring wrestling fight, and he has striking credentials to be able to do serviceable there. It's all about how many takedowns happen in this fight, and Green gives up takedowns. So I got dirty split Green. I could wake up and go Patrick here. The line is ultra off. Minus 240. It's too much for Green. Clay Guida against Patrick. I think I have Patrick winning that fight TKO easy in the first 2 rounds. So the line's off here. Give me Green split decision. Be careful out here. Buddy, do not bet all $130 on this fight. You need to pay rent. I mean, Ricky.
You are always an Alan Patrick lover. These are 2 weird guys for you. I knew this was going to be a weird fight to pick for you when I was listening to MMA Marks talk about it last night, just because I know what you like about both these guys. For me, I always hate Alan Patrick's jaw. And the knockout of his last fight, it's like, okay, it's getting there. I have realized in fights since he is one of those crazy grinder guys that his wrestling is stifling. He will ruin a fight. But Bobby Green has great takedown defense, and he's been getting better and better every time out there. And he cut that stupid fucking facial hair. And it makes me want to pick him that much more. I think he's going to I think a nasty elbow from the inside in round 3. I could move it up to round 2. I think he puts together everything right. I think he figures out and can stifle Alan Patrick's takedowns. I don't know. I just don't see Bobby Green as really a knockout guy. But going against guys like Landau Venata and pulling out a decision, that is leaps and bounds better than Alan Patrick to me. So I at least have Green decision that I want to lean into. But I can see him actually getting the knockout here and then going on his hype train ride where Bobby Green becomes the next guy that everyone wants to pick. Alan Patrick's kind of the perfect guy to do it off of. So give me Bobby Green by some nasty KO. In round 3, I can move it up to round 2. But I like everything he's doing right now. I'm a huge Bobby Green fan.
Definitely a really close matchup, a really intriguing matchup. The indecisiveness actually I'm more excited. The more I can't see a fight playing out a certain way, the more I'm like, yay. That indecisiveness isn't bad. That's like, oh, we actually have a fun stylistic matchup. And as far as betting wise, I get most excited for because you have the opportunity with big lines here to make a lot of money on a fight that is skewed. And I feel like that's been a common theme so far throughout the night. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the big favorite, minus 240, Bobby Green, 9,100 against Alan Patrick's 7,100. Do you think you're going to be playing any Bobby Green here at 9-1 in this decision type of a fight?
Honestly, I could see myself having both guys on a card. I'm only gonna play like 3 cards. What I've learned about the COVID phase of UFC, I am becoming less of a bettor, and it's kind of giving me my first experience of just loving fights for fights. I kind of fell in love with fights because I always played like little shitty DraftKings cards on them or did whatever. And so it was almost like horse racing. Like it was entertaining. And I learned about it from there. But this is giving me where I don't even care about the bet so much because the fights are thrown together on such short notice. And I kind of like the intrigue. I like there's so many underdogs coming through left and right. So it's making me a fight fan for the first time just for fights, and that's kind of what I like about this fight specifically. Who would have ever seen it? You would have never wrote this. You wouldn't have been like, oh, I want to see Alan Patrick versus Bobby Green. And now that it's here, you're like, that is so interesting.
I would have been like, didn't Patrick retire after his last fight, honestly? Because that's kind of what I thought. And I'm up to date with this kind of stuff.
You would have been like, who's Alan
for
Patrick?
me to be saying that is
no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. But on average, Bobby Green gets 69 points against Patrick 70 or 67 points. So it's got to be Patrick all day, unless he gets finished right away, which I don't see happening.
I just scrolled up to the next fights and then the next fights, and like I can't believe how many preliminary fights that the main card of this better be slaying because these prelims look all right to me.
These prelims are good.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on here that I'm like, with the fight cards that we've had over the last few weeks, I'm like, oh, this could be a main card, or, on the main card. This could be on the main card. My expectations are so much lower that actually looking at Bobby Green, Alan Patrick, that could be the first fight on a fight night to me. And I would be like, oh, this is a good fight. I'm satisfied. But then I scroll up and I'm like, Roosevelt Roberts, Matt Frivola, that could be the first fight of a fight card to me.
We have this is a sneaky fun one in here. We are going to be presenced by the most evil entity on the internet in a few minutes here, just so you know. Get ready for that clout chaser to come in and try to steal some info in here. At 155 pounds, though, as you're saying, we got a fight of the night contender in here, a fun one. Roosevelt Roberts, Matt the Steamroller Frivola coming in without his number one strategy, his number one ace in the hole,
the crowd.
His key that we saw work in Florida. The crowd is not going to be there to be able to save him in the positions where he's obviously been outground. The 8-1-1 fighter
real quick,
coming off.
More fun to say, steamroller or whatever, or globe to share. A globe to share. A globe.
I like to share a little bit more.
Who would think? I never even thought he had a nickname. And then when I heard them say it, I was like, oh, who needs a nickname when your name is Globe to share?
Definitely a fun one in there. But Steamroller, grinder. He's always a little bit shorter than most of his opponents, but that's not really affected him. I mean, he just gets in there and turns it into some grimy, dirty fights in there. Not a ton of power. He can be finished by Polo Reyes, but that 2-fight winning streak he's been on have been decisions. Dirty split against Pena 10 months ago, but he's a Serra-Longo guy. I know he's training out of Gracie, Tampa, but he does train with Aljo and all those guys. I believe he has been in Florida for a lot of this camp, but It's not easy to submit Frivola. He can keep the fight where he wants to, and his strike output is actually pretty high. He does keep a fairly solid pace against Roosevelt Roberts, somebody who has had a ton of hype behind him, but really had mixed results in there. We made some money off of him against From Hell Paschal, the 10-2 fighter. Is coming in with a little less strike output, but definitely having a little better strike accuracy at 49% to the 39 for Frivola. Though where the difference in this fight is the average 3 takedowns Frivola throws in there compared to the 2 for who is it? Roosevelt Roberts in there. The thing is that Roberts has shown, even though he's only lost twice, a lot of his other opponents have been not the best. Gifford got cut very quickly soon thereafter. Against Paschal, we cashed on him easy. He beat Brock Weaver, which again, we're saying isn't a big deal. The Yokalev fight I like Yokalev, but against Miller, I was trying to fade Miller like I do, and it did not work out. And that's because Roberts still has a hype on him. He has a high elbow guillotine, and he throws a lot of strikes, but he does have a lot of openings. That overhand right lands a lot. His takedown defense isn't the best. And once Roosevelt Roberts doesn't get that guillotine, which happened against Jim Miller, which if Jim Miller saw it, everyone else has got to see it. So you just jump to the opposite side. And once Roberts is on his back, he doesn't have the best get up game, and he can't. It's not that he can't defend submissions, but he will just give up a lot of position and just allow the fight to be lost from being on bottom. And Paschal showed that as well. And that's Frivola's game plan. If he can't beat you striking, he shoots takedowns. Gets you on the ground against Luis Pena, the same thing. Stayed in his triangle, almost got triangled, almost, until the fight was over, and he won because he was on top a lot more here. So I'm going to have to go with the steamroller here. This is a coin flip of a fight, even on the lines, and people are seeing that the kryptonite for Roosevelt Roberts is a grinding wrestler, and that's what Roosevelt Roberts does. Give me the steamroller. This is going to be a low-scoring fight as far as DraftKings is concerned. I actually would say stick with Roberts if you think you're going to be playing DraftKings for this one, or it's a big fat stay away. Who do you think you're picking in this one?
I totally agree for all the same reasons that you said. You know, the word quit comes to mind a little bit with Roosevelt Roberts in a way that Matt Frivola has none of. No matter what you say about Steamroller, like, he keeps coming forward. I think he has octagon control. I do think it's like he has all the basics covered very, very well. So I don't see him getting caught into a Roosevelt Roberts trap. If Jim Miller was strong enough to submit Roosevelt Roberts, I think Matt Frivola is going to be way stronger than Roosevelt here. I like Roosevelt Roberts. It's his length. He just kind of never showed up, but all the tall guys of this era haven't really shown up in a way that everyone expected him to, like Luis Pena. So I like Matt Frivola. I like his corner. Isn't it his father?
I believe it can be.
He's just kind of that, it's not about flash in there. He's just in there to fight. Yeah, give me a Frivola decision. I don't know if I see it necessarily being so high, maybe mildly over 70, but I even think he could get the finish because of the quit in Roosevelt Roberts. I think he could mount up and just lay enough punches in a row that the ref's like, you got to do something, Roosevelt. You got to do, whatever. And then eventually it's called. But, yeah, give me Matt Frivola by a heavy D.
On DraftKings, the minus 115 near even fighter, Roosevelt Roberts, 8,400 on DraftKings against Frivola's minus 105. So you're getting minus money on both guys. This is the epitome of a coin flip. 7,800 for Frivola. Though on average, both of these guys are in that middling range. Roberts, an average of 61 points on DraftKings to the average 58 points, 57 points for Frivola. I think this is going to be a DraftKings stay away, even though, as I was saying, if there's a side to play on this one, I think it's Roosevelt Roberts. Because if there's a finish out of either fighter, it's Roosevelt Roberts. So that would be the only potential to score more points for me. Even though I'm picking Frivola in a decision, I'm just saying out of these two guys, one's a finisher, one isn't, and that's Roberts.
I just don't
Frivola's much.
see Roberts finishing anyone of UFC
I'd
caliber.
agree.
Where I think Matt Frivola is a UFC caliber cat. So I don't see a heavy score here for Frivola. I think he gets you your money back.
Yes. Okay. So that's where I'm going to probably stay away from that fight more
I
than
can agree.
anything. I feel like there's other spots, a lot of other spots. One that might be available for you is at 135 pounds, rescheduled short notice replacement match. We got Julia Vila coming in against Sajara Sarge Eubanks. This is one of those fighters that I keep forgetting is on one of my most hated lists. Sargent here coming in with a 5-4 record, coming off a win to Sarah Moras 3 months ago. Prior to that, losing to my girl Betchy in there, losing to Aspen Ladd, beating Roxanne, beating Lauren Murphy. The purple belt in here was going to fight somebody else a week ago, but the fight fell out literally day of weigh-ins. So Sarge got another 2 weeks to get ready for this fight. She's still the one you got to watch out for as far as making weight. She is the habitual weight misser in here. Ricky coming in thinking that Eubanks is going to easily get the win in here. She does have the jiu-jitsu credentials to be able to do that. The thing is that if you see her in that Betch fight, if you see her in some of those other fights, what if Eubanks gets stuffed on a couple takedowns, she completely stops shooting them, because if you're a wrestler and you understand that somebody squash you with a sprawl underneath the takedown, that's the most draining position you can be, where your knee flattens into your chest and then you have to get out of there. It's hard to get back out, where here Avila has a ton of output. Ton of output. Even though she came in at short notice, she did end up being the favorite in their last short notice bout because of her output. Avila in here actually has a little bit less than Sarge Eubanks at 5 per minute strikes landed for Eubanks to the 3.9, but it's just that amount of power that Avila shows that she can put in there. Evil Twin throwing on there saying he can't join. Oh, whoa,
But
creepy. I think
it
it's
looked
that
like
voodoo.
he was going to join, but it looked like he was going to join with your. It looked like your picture for a minute. That was voodoo. That was that voodoo bullshit.
That's that Evil Twin bullshit. You don't even know what he does. So, here, I feel like Avila can keep it standing because she does have solid takedown defense. She's at 66% against limited opponents in the UFC. I feel like she can keep it striking and outstrike Eubanks. This is a gross one, though, and I do think the line's off. I think Sarge, for what Ricky's saying, does have a better shot than most people think. She's too big of an underdog here, but I do think Avila can easily eke out a heavy decision. On that one, who do you think you have? Evil Twin, you're going to get your second here. We're talking about Julia Avila versus Sarge Eubanks, that short notice replacement fight.
I'm
I
going to
got
go
Avila
with Sarge
decision.
here. I'm going to go with Sarge.
Okay.
I'm not going to let the crowd sway me. I think that she was hot off the Tough House and she wasn't training full time and she kind of had a little bit of quit. She was doing other things. She seems to be back in full force. She seems to want it now. Her body seems to be like she's cutting weight more seriously, where we're not seeing those like she was a habitual weight misser. In fact, she was supposed to be the first African American headliner, but she fucked it up because she missed weight. So she was a future champion one day. I think this is a better weight class for her, even though she's not going to be the taller person. She is linebacker. She's like T. Woods in there. So I just think Eubanks has a little more experience in there against a little tougher competition. So I'm going to go with Eubanks by a dirty D.
So are you also on the Ricky #1 fan of Evil Twin at MMA Marks in here? If you didn't know, on the chat, Evil Twin, you got someone who's been high praising you as of late, saying you got all the hot picks. He's a Maryland native as well, so you know he's picking Eubanks. Who do you think you're going to be taking out of this grimy one?
Oh, I am sorry to disappoint. but the Raging Panda is going to put it on Eubanks. I don't know who I'm disappointing. Clearly, it's a lot of people. It's 3, so it's probably your whole fan base. But I just see the added struggle that you guys are talking about with Sahara. She is moving up, and that's great and all, but she's going to be undersized. She has a loss to Betch Hea.
My girl's in a retirement fight for the belt. I mean, just a retirement fight, but whatever. My girl's coming back.
I mean, her last win was against Sarah Morris, and don't get me wrong, I like Cheesecake. I like her, but you got a unanimous decision on a girl that wants to go to the ground with you. That was I think a brown or blue belt, and you're a black belt, and you couldn't get her out of there.
The worst person in the league is Mazzani, and she's not even there anymore.
Truth. Mazzani's garbage.
So, are you in reference to what is it, the Raging Panda's last fight?
Correct. Mm-hmm. And I would say the same. You can't take anything from that Mazzani fight. Mazzani's the bottom. No,
but she Panny. She beat Panny.
I agree. That's much
previous to that. That is a much better fight, considerably better fight, and she did it with her grappling and her takedowns. And Eubanks is gonna be her bread and butter. But her gas tank is what's failed her time and time and time again. With good collegiate grappling that the Panda's got, I think it's going to be a boring fight, and unfortunately, I don't get the only fight that she has lost as far as Avila has is against Allen, and that was a hand injury. So she hurt her own hand and lost the fight. So she's 0-8 realistically. I get what you're saying.
All right, Sugar Shane. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I've got Avila in this one, and I'm fading Eubanks. I can't side with the gas tank or the move up against bigger, likely all around better competition.
About the line, -315 is too much though. That's too much
for the Panda. Yeah, that's too much, especially on short notice. For short notice, what is it, 7-day, 8-day replacement? I'd put her somewhere.
But she was a replacement a week, 2 weeks ago, and then it got pushed back to 3 weeks. So Avila's got about 3 weeks now. She did have 7 days the first time around.
And the panty she beat was not the panty that exists right now. It was the worst.
It was a toothless panty. It was not toothless panty.
It was old.
Once
panties.
we got toothless panty, it's a new panty for sure. For sure.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Eubanks grow as a complete martial artist. She stayed relatively the same. So it's hard. Betting line, I would have probably put her on like a 210. I'd give her the favorite. I'd give her the odds, but I wouldn't go 350 mark. That's outrageous.
So real quick, Ricky at MMA Mark saying, yes, Evil Twin. Loving the Evil Twin moniker on here. We got MMA Mark's buddy also showing up talking about Love and Gold, but he's saying, is there such a thing as a Raging Panda in general? I seen them fighting with a six on China sometimes. I think it was called Kung Fu something, but who's this or there? We're here for more of the real fight talk. Is there any other fights where we're at? We're about almost done with the preliminary cards. Which ones have you been styling and profiling, Evil Twin? Because I know your time's limited.
Right. So there's a couple on the undercard. This is a better, as of right now, this is a better put together card with more established names. A lot of guys moving.
So you were listening to the podcast 45 minutes ago, because we've been saying that the whole time.
No. I got off of work. I have a day job, and I still got other obligations. By the way, Oregon is on fire, and soccer's practice. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're not likely to get.
Antifa showing up, keeping you inside your house.
Well, We haven't been evacuated yet, but it's getting real. It's getting real dark, real hot
All good
out here.
energy
So
sent.
it's burning.
Hopefully we get some
Absolutely.
rain. Get rain sent. You can have some of our
Yep,
rain.
yep.
Rain dance.
Oh,
Go
we
outside
want
with
it.
the
Trust
kids.
me.
Do some rain dance.
That's a good call. We'll probably do that directly after this. I'll get them moving and whatnot. But back to the card. I didn't listen to a damn thing. I'm just jumping in, giving you what I got. Fights to look out for out of the gate. Earlier on, the Camacho Brock Weaver. I got Camacho on that one. Brock Weaver hasn't shown any substantial MMA skills. He's more of a brawler than he is at least what I can see as a martial artist. Camacho leaves himself for opportunities to get hit. Sure, I don't think Brock Weaver has the punching power, speed, or athleticism to compete with a Camacho. Even though Camacho acts like a punching bag, I think that's a storm he can weather. And I do like Camacho in that fight. Another one that I'm really excited for, even though Bobby Green is very much so on a little bit of a run right now, Alan Patrick has been out for about a year, but I was hyped on Alan Patrick before his loss to Holzman, and I'm still hyped on Alan Patrick. He comes in there, he implements his game plan. I believe he is the underdog in that one, but I'm excited to see him back in the UFC. And if he continues, even though he had a bad showing against Holtzman, but Holtzman has shown that he's made that step into top tier fighters. I think this is a good. Hopefully, we see the Alan Patrick of late or a previous, and he comes in and implements his game plan.
Did you
Which
send
is
all
a
your
really
picks
heavy
to
right?
Emmanuel before this? Did you already send him your picks?
He told you about the picks I said. Oh, absolutely, I did. You know I did.
That's garbage.
Because he
That's
already said all the same. You guys have all the same picks.
Oh, baloney. Okay, hold on. Roosevelt Rovers, Matt Frovella. I got Frovella.
Yep, same.
Dude, you stole my picks.
You're garbage. Absolutely garbage. Apparently, you're dead to Ricky for picking against Bobby Green in that one as well. Calling you out. He's saying he's willing to box you if you ever meet.
Yeah, sure. If I could put your dumb ass down, I can't imagine I could put anybody down. That's no
Oh,
problem.
we'll
Oh,
see.
that's tough.
I got money on Ricky. Easy. Easy.
If he can put you down, he
My
can put
younger brother-
anybody down. You're like
Thank
Zeus.
you for that. Thank you. I'm over here.
You're like
The reason I say that is because there's only about 12 brain cells in there, so the dude could take a 2x4.
Thank
I've
you.
seen him do it.
It's true. I've never been knocked down.
like ooh,
You've been
feels
knocked out, though.
good.
What's up?
So other fun ones we got in here. Getting back to the fight card, you were all about Avila. As we're saying, we haven't gotten into the main card yet. But what's just one of these sneaky ones we haven't talked about yet that you think there might be a little bit of value on? I know you like that Modafferi Andrea Lee fight. That's what you're staying up for.
No, I mean, I love Roxanne Modafferi. I've met her in person. She's a sweet lady, but there's no way. Andrea Lee is a technical striker with great takedown defense. That's not going to happen. There's no way. That's Andrea Lee. Honestly, I'd see Andrea Lee TKOing her. Getting the TKO.
Ooh, okay.
Andrea Lee is volume striker, and Modafferi gets touched. If she can keep it standing, Modafferi will turn, curl, and give up a TKO.
I can't even see that.
Yeah, multiple people in here also agreeing that Roxy's probably not going to be doing all that well in that one. So what about the Herman Rodriguez fight?
Oh man, that one's actually that's tougher because Short Fuse has come out and he's repping Portland, but Ed Herman is he's learned to stay away from brawls, push guys into a fence, stifle them, and take nasty decisions. On that side, Rodriguez has come out, gotten touched, lost, And if he doesn't put you away in the first round, it's anybody's fight at that point. And that's the fight that Ed Herman wants. I'm siding with Rodriguez on that, though.
Oh, okay. So definitely some fun ones in there.
Did you just have to change your pick?
Am I? No, not at all. I'm sticking with my picks. Absolutely none. Previous
I wanna hear the main
ones.
event before we head out. How much time do you have?
I still got probably 10 minutes.
Oh,
no
perfect.
problem.
Go on, E, sorry.
Everything's canceled. Everything got canceled because of
You're
the
about
fire
to be
and
canceled.
COVID. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm outing you for stealing all my picks.
That is garbage. Absolutely.
Next thing you're gonna say is that you win at COD. I guarantee it. It's weird. You're gonna claim that you're the best COD player on
I'm
here.
the best cod eating champion in the East Coast right now. 5 in under a minute, deep fried. Get them out there, codfish sandwiches.
Oh, sorry. I misheard you. I swear it didn't sound like cod. It sounded like you added a K at the end of that. I was gonna say absolutely.
You wish.
I bet you munch on that.
So, in this main event, we got Angela Hill against Michelle Waterson. Who do you think you're going to be taking in there? The chat's getting involved in this heated discussion. Buddy in here is getting a little crazy. That PS4 reject in here can't even speak on it in there. He can't cross-platform. So, yeah, he's talking about
we can
COD.
cross-platform.
You can.
I'll
For
smash
COD,
you.
I think.
Yeah, I'll smash you all day.
Ooh.
All day.
Oh,
Is
okay.
Is one.
Careful
Look
out
it
there,
up.
buddy.
Is one. Get it.
So the
Come
main
get it.
event,
Two
who do
Zs,
you
right?
think is going to be taking this
IZZWON?
one?
Is it IZZWON?
Sorry.
Is that your...
IZZWON. That is my gamer tag on Xbox.
Also known as your lamer tag for you, Evil Twin. So
Yeah.
who do you have in this
It's
main
my
event?
gamer, but GAY. Gamer.
Yeah. I'm not touching that one.
If I'm hanging
this
out
was
with
a
my
family
dyke
show.
friends, I say it's my gamer tag.
Back to your question. I've got I'll try to break it down a little bit. Both of them are coming on a little off of losses, I believe, actually. Let's see. Michelle Waterson is coming off
right.
2 consecutive losses. Joanna Jacek and Carla Esparza, and you have Angela Hill coming off of a
Win to Gedalia. It was a win to Gedalia.
It was a split decision loss. So I'm riding the Hill hype train. Waterson is undersized for the weight division. Hill is, I wouldn't say oversized, but she is at par to where they need to be. She's a volume striker. Michelle Waterson's takedowns have gotten better all the way around, but Angela Hill's takedown defense has excelled in that same aspect. So that being said, I think that they're age for age. What is it? And Hill has the 2.5-inch reach advantage. She lands consecutively more strikes, and she has a takedown defense to boot. I'm going Hill. She's also with a controversial split loss. I guarantee you she's in a better headspace than 2 consecutive losses.
Does it make it better or worse for you that Angela Hill's grandparents were abducted by aliens?
Ooh, that makes it better.
Yeah, fair.
Because she might be part alien, right?
Well, because I think she then might understand, or at least feel that she has a bigger purpose, and you can't fight. I mean, you can, but you never. It's a hard thing to break. And Hill has will, so
it's kind of good
I would
we
side
all
with the
know
mental
this.
aspect.
So that way, if the aliens come down, Angela Hill can be our ambassador.
Yeah, very good
We'll be
point.
like, you better
I'm
learn
actually
that circle language.
the main event was not one of the ones I was more eager, even though they both have very short stints in the UFC so far. I do think this thing goes a little bit to the cards, but it's Worsley versus Azatar. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
A-
But what?
Azatar.
Okay, Avatar, whatever. Worsley versus Avatar. Avatar came out and he had a freaking can and had showcased a huge right hand. Worsley came out and put away Pena. And, you know, the Violent Bob Ross, his had his faults, but nonetheless, he was able to do it against what I would consider a better all around MMA fighter. So Ottman is going to come out bombs ablazing. Worsley's going to come out and try to do the same thing. I think that fight ends in a knockout, hands down. I think Avatar is going to come out hot like he did, thinking he's just going to throw power bombs, and I think Worsley is going to catch him. And I don't think that fight goes all 3 rounds as a co-main event.
We're gonna eventually break down that one. I thought I had a pretty hot line on it as well. I think the line's incredibly off. Usually it's been minus 300 to like minus or +2, where here it's minus 135 to plus 110. That line's off. I'd pay so much more money for Worthy in this spot, just because I've been following his career. I'm one of the only people that I know had him against Pena. I didn't pick him against Devin in there, his first big upset, but I did see once I looked into his background. I mean, his summers, Worthy summers, are training at Penn State's wrestling camp. So I
Boom.
know you used to like to think you used to wrestle back in the day. So you will know what that wrestling means. So that ground game is incredibly sneaky for Worthy. He's known as a power puncher right now. People don't understand how good he really is on the ground and takedowns. If you look at some of the Penn State footage, it's Worthy in there with some of their top varsity lineups going in there takedown for takedown. So a lot of people underestimating him, and that's where Azatar, if he doesn't throw those punches, he usually comes in with wrestling. But again, we'll get to that one. That's when I'm really, really surprised that the line is so close. As you're saying, Azatar Far Packlin, a UFC nobody, someone who went 0
Yeah.
2 in there and out of there. So you're absolutely right on that one. What do you think, Cheney? On quickly on
I,
that one
I
before we get
agree with
deep
you
into it.
guys too. I'm actually surprised. You know, there is a lot of lady fights on this fight card, but it's a better fight card than I was giving it credit for last week. And granted, everything could fall out beforehand, but I just feel like we've gotten really meek fight cards, and this one's okay for a fight night. And next week is insane for a fight night. So, you know, as much as like the UFC is putting these all together, and I give them just as much hate for when everything falls out, but I'm glad they're doing the damn thing. Like, this isn't a bad fight card. I was giving it so much hate. I was like, Waterson Hill, what the? But looking through it,
No,
I
So
didn't
the
know about
one,
that.
Emmanuel, the thing you do have to watch out for with this is, of course, if the COVID bug catches, this card could do what it did last week and just totally fall apart. But mind you, Worthley has been TKO or KO'd in all but one of his losses out of 6. The other one he gave up to rear naked choke. So you could argue that it's maybe a little suspect. The last time he got KO'd was in 2017, so 3 years removed. He's fought some decent strikers in between there. He had the win over Pena, which he could take people out, but Omar or Ottman could have that. I think he's nullified that part of his striking with his defense since he was able to avoid a lot of it. You could see he shells up a lot. He's very reminiscent of a Tyrone Woodley. He waits for the big power punch, jumps into it, physical guy. But I mean, there's a little bit there, but even Woodley had a suspect chin for a little bit till he got his defense up. So
So with that submission, just if you go back and if you did watch the tape and study at all on any of these guys, you would also know that it was essentially a knockout via right hand. He just, instead of getting the knockout called, he had to jump on his back and choke him out. But in any other promotion, they would have probably just been like, all right, he's done. So that submission is not, it wasn't his submission, his defense that gave out. He was stunned deer in the headlights and just kind of got wrapped up.
Yeah, he lost or he won by guillotine choke, so I don't know how he choked him from behind. If it was
No, his only loss submission that he had.
Okay. So his only loss submission. I thought you were talking about him beating Pena. So then his chin again. So 6 of 6 losses have all come due
just
to
throwing
head
it out
trauma.
there as far as that. So if you want to side with that, I did watch that and was like, oh, he doesn't have bad submission defense. He got knocked out, and then the guy choked him when he was still pretty much out. So it's definitely going to be a classy one in there over the weekend. Are you going to be playing a lot of DraftKings cards?
Yeah, but I've been sticking to a lot of $1 cards. I do play a lot of the $3 cards. That way, if it hits, I hit big. But I'm spread loading $10-15, $1 25-cent cards. I'll probably do 7 or 8 cards, and just to keep my keep it that much more alive.
Same.
The fight night. But God, it's been the COVID's been killing it. COVID's been absolutely killing my fight. Last week I was out of town. I was off the grid, and because of that, I didn't even get to change it up. So my stats are shot for the year.
Fights that got completely taken off or changed. I bet your DraftKings looked pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Booty.
Yep.
I almost wish the Vegas Apex Center would set up something where they did quarantine for a certain amount of days, even if it was a week before the fight, just so they could test and rearrange. Because, the more frequent tests up to fight time and then being quarantined, it would be that much more closer that they could be like, these people are all clean in the area. These people are all clean.
No, well, my thing was stop testing after the 24-hour mark.
Well, I mean, love that even
you
more.
Yeah,
of course I love
after
that.
They go in,
after they weigh in, leave them alone.
Yeah, after they weigh in, check them. They weigh in, cool. Everybody go back to your rooms, whatever. Stay within distance and stop testing, because that's where we're getting screwed. So stop the test at that point.
Like, yeah,
and
you're
even
about
the
to have
corners,
somebody's finger in your butt. You're about to have their blood in your mouth. Fingernail in the eye. Like, there's about to be gross body exchanges. You might have doo-doo on you from the other person.
Fight for sure.
Hey, Justine Kish is fighting. I was about to say the same thing. It happens.
So I'm like, at what point, it's like, you're right, at the 24-hour mark, once they hit the scales, maybe right before they hit the scales, that's the last of it. So it's like you're clean.
Yep,
and
it's a 15-minute test.
Now you're allowed to weigh in. You don't even have to hit the scale. If you hit that last one dirty, you don't even need to get on the scale.
I don't know about that. We still want to try to keep it even, but at least as far as people not going overboard. But all right, guys, that's what I got. I'll catch you on some COD later. Go ahead, talk all the crap you want after this. I've been checking in on you. You guys have been letting him get the last word, and that's BS. And he stole all my picks.
He usually does.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Thought it was LaTB up in this bitch.
Yeah, I told him I was wearing a black shirt today. Weird. Freaking weird. All right, later, guys.
Bye. Have a good one.
Screw that guy.
No, I hope everything's good with the fires, though, up there. Because every friend I have in all different areas of Oregon, and now he's in a whole different spot of Oregon than anyone. It's in a relatively close, some people, but everywhere I know on the West Coast right now, I should say, through California, everywhere's on fire. So
I'm just saying, stop having babies, because apparently it's all these baby gender reveals that are causing these fires.
I'm like, hey, cancel culture. Can we leave Louis C.K. alone and get to go attack the gender reveal parties?
Everyone. Absolutely. It's
Because
insane. Why are
honestly,
people
I
dying to
don't
gender reveal?
I don't want a Mandela effect, but this is like the third time the gender reveal has started a mass fire somewhere.
2 years in a row, at least.
It's crazy. Here's a Mandela effect, a new one. I know you love a good Mandela effect.
I do.
Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse.
Okay.
You know Ed McMahon, the old guy that would give the big checks? You know those little
Yeah, right. Didn't he
stamps?
say I'm Ed McMahon? I'm here with the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, I thought he was the dude.
Yeah, that was
Apparent,
him. I thought it was like his bank.
apparently, he never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
But wow, that's throwing me through a loop. Woo! Woo!
Evil
My
Twin was
head's
here.
off.
We might as well.
I'm more thrown through a loop that here, Lesbo, Cheney from LaTB, throwing me under the bus, not even sticking with the game. I could show you all my texts. He ain't never give me those cards. Never.
I don't think
Never.
he did. I'm here with you all the time. I was just here with you while you made all your picks. We just talked about them all.
Absolutely. That's what got me. You want to hear Mandela effect? LaTB was on the same page.
I felt bad because outside his door looked like it was on fire. I felt like I had to give him one.
So back to the fight
Here, let me
night. Back
shake it
to
off. Shake it
Vegas.
off.
Back to Vegas 10. We got another profile fight in here. We have Matt Schnell coming in against Tyson Nam at 125 pounds. 19-11-1. Tyson Nam coming in off of his first win in the UFC, beating Dashev in there 2 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Kai Kara France, losing to Sergio Pettis in his two prior UFC debuting fights. Nam, even though he knocked out Adeshev in there, Adeshev was really undersized on short notice in about a week. It was right before I feel like Adeshev's fighter fell out, but Nam just showed that he's a much better striker in there. But this is a much more level competitor that he has in here in Match Now. Danger in here, 14-5, coming off of a loss to Alejandro Pantoja. Prior to that, knocking off a big winning spree, beating Espinoza, beating Smoka, beating Inoue, Beltran in there as well. Schnell is a solid boxer with good triangles off of his back on the ground, sneaky in general as well. We'll throw in a takedown every once in a while, but definitely is almost at a peak, even though he's 30 years old compared to the Tyson Nam. Nam has already peaked. He's already kind of on the way down. His best win was against the nobody Adeshev fighter, where Schnell is not going to grow too much more as far as his fighting career, but he's going to be putting in his hardest fights right about this time. And I just feel like even though he was finished by Pantoja with that right hand 8 months ago, it's been long enough, and Tyson Nam isn't really the biggest power puncher. He'll beat the Adeshevs in there, but Schnell is on such a big different level. Nam likes to keep it up striking, also out of that Portland area, the sports lab. He's got solid takedown defense, even on the ground. He's serviceable, but really shows that Muay Thai off well, where Schnell is more of just a straight boxer, but he does that very well. I think his boxing can actually beat a bit of Tyson Nam. I think this turns into a really close fight. I think it goes back and forth. They each can switch takedowns in here, and I'm going to go Schnell decision. This is a coin flip of a fight. I'm actually liking the -105, -125 for Nam, -105 Schnell. Give me the slight underdog. If it gets any worse, I'm going to be putting more money on Schnell. I like the underdog in this spot. I think he's got a better gas tank with more power. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this coin flip of a fight?
I think I had Tyson Nam until this moment because Matt Schnell gives me he has like a case of the Cody Garbrandt where he has kind of a glass jaw and then gets really hot-headed and goes in like all chin up, and that makes me weary against a guy like Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam can find that button and knock him out. That being said, I love the time that Matt Schnell has taken off in between. Granted, a lot of it is probably coronavirus stuff, but he does put together everything nicely in a way that I feel like he's a more well-rounded fighter than Tyson Nam. That if he can get him down, he is going to control him a little bit more there. I have Schnell decision right now. I've switched it. Gosh, I almost want to sit back and just watch this fight. Are they both crazy high on the output?
As far as their output, we have 3.7 strikes landed for Schnell against the 3 even for Nam, with the 35% strike accuracy to Schnell's to the 28 for Nam. Nam also having 3 fights in there go to decision. So those are fairly accurate numbers. And Schnell's had more than 7 fights in the UFC. So again, a good representation of what we're going to actually get in there. As far as takedowns are concerned, only 0.6 per 15 minutes, one a fight maybe to Schnell throw in there compared to the 0 for Tyson Nam's 3 fights in there. So again, I think Schnell mixes it up just a little bit more than Nam in this fight. He has a little higher output and does have the less striking defense with 60% for Schnell to 65%
I see
for
Nam having
Nam.
Nam having the kicks here.
I would agree with that. Nem has the kicks in here, but again, I see this being a close, dirty split, so I'm going to take the side underdog. If it gets the plus money, it makes it that much easier for me, but I got Schnell. He's got the output and the takedown potential out of the two. Nam is going to keep it a kickboxing match.
I like what you're saying.
So that's the headlining preliminary bout of the night. We get into what everybody's here for, why the trolls are in the chat, to try to get that Fight Pick Championship info, to try to be on the winning squad, to be winning by the week's end. And at 145 pounds, we got Billy Quarantino coming in against Kyle Nelson, the 13-3 fighters coming off of a win last beating Polo Reyes TKO, getting him on the ground and grounding pounding him 11 months ago. Prior to that, he locked the Mas Salas in a submission triangle choke, also losing to Diego Ferreira ground and pound, which really doesn't look all that bad after all. Nelson coming in with a 5'11 frame in there, having a 1-inch reach advantage against Quarantillo, who at 145 tends to be a big guy. Kyle Nelson is huge in there. Huge at 5'11. It's just when he really gets in there, you'll really see here on guys when he gets his takedown game going as well and can be the better grappler. He definitely showed against Polo Reyes, like when he stopped trying to strike and got to his ground game. It's a really tough fight. And here against Quarantillo, it's going to be an uphill battle. The 14-2 fighter, 31 years old, that's what he does. Quarantillo grinds. I was telling you guys a while ago, ever since he was on the Tough House, the Contender Series as well, he got a TKO win. He wasn't on the Tough House, the Contender Series. He won that TKO, but it was at ground and pound as well against Kilburn, submission triangle choke, and as of late, beaten Spike Carlisle in a decision, showing his toughness in there. The same with Quarantillo. Striking isn't the best, but it's a means to an end. He uses his striking to get to that takedown, push you up against the fence, and grind it out. And these guys are going to test each other. Quarantillo is training with Matt Frivola, another grinder in here. But this is a grinder versus grinder type of stylistic matchup. On the striking, I think they even each other out, and that's a low level of striking. So I see a grappler's delight. Who ends up on top more here is really hard to say. The Canadian fighter has done well in most of his fights, but if you're gonna ask me an American versus a Canadian wrestler, I'm gonna go American all day, baby. You're gonna give me Steamroller Frivola in the corner all day. Give me Billy Q in this. If you think I ain't following Q, you wrong. Give me the plus or minus 250 favorite here. Billy Q for a decision. I do think the line is off though here. I do think this is 29-28, 30-27 Quarantillo, but I think Kyle Nelson can take a first round maybe, and then it's going to be on Quarantillo. I don't know if I see a finish for either fighter. They both have power and they both have good gas tanks. So give me Billy Q. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this one?
am going to go with Q as well, but submission. I do think by the end of it, he is going to find that neck. I did have decision. I was going to be all like, oh, well, where we go when we go all. And then I'm like, I don't have the same thing. So I do have submission for Quarantillo. I do think he's going to be stronger here. I do think he's going to have a little more power, a little better gas tank. And I just think he knows what to do on the ground everywhere better. So if he can slowly wear away at Kyle Nelson, who... Gosh, I know he's been in the UFC for a while, and I know he has that win. He's never really been UFC caliber to me. So the losses aren't, I don't look at them the same at all. I'm like, oh, you're losing the guys that I also don't feel like should be in the UFC. That ain't great. So I do like Billy Corn. Kyle Nelson. Oh, well,
yeah, but
I'm
Diego
in
Ferreira.
on Matt Salas and Diego Ferreira. I'm like, how... How long are we going to do that? So, I don't know.
I'm on him.
I think Billy Quarantillo's on his way up, so I think he's going to be stronger here. I think Kyle Nelson does have that length. I kind of see him as the tall man defense. He gives me the vibes of like, what's Homer Simpson, homeboy. Not...
There's so many of them.
I know, but what's the guy that actually said that to Justin Gaethje?
Vic?
Yeah, James Vick.
James Vick. There it is.
James Vick. So I got Quarantillo, submission round 3.
So on DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $9,300 for the minus 210 favorite against Kyle Nelson's $6,900. On average, Billy Quarantillo, 107 points in his 2 fights, compared to Kyle Nelson's 44 points. Though I'm going to look to see where all those added up. Against Carlisle, Billy Q had...
And I really like Carlisle. That was an okay fight, but Billy Carlisle feels like he won that.
It was a fairly close fight.
It was a close fight.
So I don't think that I'm going to be able to spend that much money for Billy Q here, especially in a decision type of a fight. 9-3, I feel like that's the guy I'm going to probably back off of over that 9,000, even though we've given you a lot of 7,000s to be able to play to allow that salary relief. I don't think Quarantillo's a spot here. Nelson's going to give up
that expensive, there is better people to play, in my opinion.
Finishers, absolute finishers, where both of these guys are kind of decision guys in here. So definitely interesting matchup. Be careful on that one as far as DraftKings is concerned. Then we move on to a 205-pound matchup where we have Ed Short Fuse Herman coming in against Mike Rodriguez. Rodriguez coming in with an 11-4 record, last beating Prachnio 2 weeks ago via TKO, but we've known for a long time Prachnio is not UFC caliber after we saw Sam Alvey starch him in there. Prior to that, he lost to Ung and lost to Allen as well in there, only beating Milstead, losing to Clark. If you listen to me talk about Rodriguez 2 weeks ago, I'm going to tell you that every time. You can't trust him. Yes, he's going to be able to beat your Prachniaus in there. He's going to be able to beat your Milsteads. But anybody that has an extended amount of gas tank and actual ability and fight IQ in there and can eat those punches after the first round, Rodriguez is a completely different fighter in that round, second and third round. And also, I would say, has a little bit of that quit. Once his arms are gassed, his long arms are gassed, they just hang so low that he just eats punches and can get finished in there against much lesser fighters. And here against Short Fuse, the 24-14 fighters coming off a 2-fight winning streak, beating Cadiz, beating Cummings in there, losing to Vellante, Holloway, and Krylov. That Cadiz fight, I would say, is a lot like this Rodriguez fight. Somebody who has to get you out of there in that first round. And if he doesn't, all of a sudden, Cadiz is shelling up in there, and Erd Herman is putting together 8 punch combinations because he knows this guy can't return anything because he's shot. And I'm actually incredibly surprised that Evil Twin is on Rodriguez in this spot, the way he was talking, because I got short fuse Herman in a decision, if not third round TKO all day. Plus 210? Okay. Give me someone who can put a game plan together, has had a solid chin, and doesn't have to cut all that weight. Short fuse has a good gas tank. He's shown it in his last 2 fights. Give me Ed Herman in a decision. Again, I could see a finish in here, but I got the underdog. I do know that. Who are you taking in
You
this
know what?
fun
I'm
one?
going to say some shit right now that this is very. Whatever, this is what we do here. We break down DraftKings cards, which is money. This is Fight Pick Championship talk, which, by the way, the runners of the Fight Pick Championship need to tell us a PayPal to send money to for Mini Belt.
Truth.
Mini Belt.
Truth.
But to me, Ed Herman is my spot here, where I have Herman decision, but points-wise, yeah, you can get a little points for Ed Herman decision, but it almost behooves you to try to go for that Ed Herman like third round knockout with just doing like you're saying, where Rodriguez just has that quit in him. So my inside Fight Pick Championship pick of the week would be go with Ed Herman here and go with an Ed Herman finish, and don't pick the Ed Herman D. Because I do love everything you're saying. He can put, it's not because it'll be a clean knockout. It'll be more so because the ref will be like, Rodriguez, you got to do something.
Right.
So I kind of like that. It's a little inside pool.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the big minus 200 favorite Rodriguez, 8,800 against Ed Short Fuse Herman, 7,400. On average, DraftKings, you got 64 points for Rodriguez to the average 62 points for Herman. Again, this is the 74. We've already talked about these 7,000 type players. Ed Herman's in that range, and he's super live for a win here. The odds are off. This whole night could be known as they're off. The odds are off. If they're not too favored, then they're too much of an underdog. There's room here. There's room. Give a short fuse. Evil Twin didn't change your mind, because I thought he was going to skew you a little bit.
I'm not a huge Rodriguez fan.
Such even wavelength.
No. Well, I burned him beforehand, before he even got on the show, too, and said that he's been last place for weeks.
In our hearts. Yeah, that's true.
And my picks aren't with him going forward a lot of the way.
So another one we might have a little mixed reviews on. We got Andrea Lee coming in against Roxanne Modafferi at 125 pounds. This 3-rounder is going to be profiled with Modafferi coming in with a 24-17 record, last losing to Lauren Murphy in a decision. Prior to that, beating Macy Barber as a huge underdog, losing to Maya, beating Shevchenko, losing to Eubanks. We know what we're getting with Modafferi. The 37-year-old is finally starting to look athletically in her prime because of her strength and conditioning. But we did see Lauren Mueller, and we can see what other people do if they can fight out of those submissions. If they don't turn their ankle and blow out their knee in the first 40 seconds, that they can probably beat Roxanne Modafferi. Shevchenko's a decision fighter. Andrea Lee has been known to be a bit of a decision fighter as well at 11-4, coming off a 2-fight losing streak. Also losing to Lauren Murphy in a split decision, making it much closer. Losing to Calderwood in a close split decision as well. Andrea Lee just has a ton of volume. KGB is a kickboxer who's 100% American, fighting out of Louisiana, Shreveport.
I can't stand the cowboy hat with KGB Lee and then be 100% American. None of it makes any logical
her husband
sense.
was a Nazi, so it's okay.
But even that isn't KGB. The whole thing is a clusterfuck of ideology.
Her racist husband said, "You need a gimmick. Here's a cowboy hat." She had never worn a cowboy hat as a kid.
Fine. Why with the KGB then?
because it rhymed. And don't
She
Nazis
needs to be
like the
Dixie
KGB?
Lee if she's gonna have that cowboy hat on, or something more like the K. It's just so the whole thing. It's
How about Andrea Hillbilly?
what is
Hillbill. That's it.
she be like? This is my impression of Angela Hill if she was watching this live. Oh hell nah.
So, definitely it's Lee all day. I don't think Modafferi can get her to the ground. Lee's shown more than serviceable takedown defense. And if it doesn't get to the ground, Modafferi really doesn't have too
How
big of
much
a
of a
shot.
wizard are you? I feel like Lauren Murphy won that fight because she got Andrea Lee down.
Morphy has better takedowns than Roxanne Modafferi. Modafferi has very stiff, rigid movement, but that's her entire game plan. She's always been stiff and rigid. But where Murphy shoots a double leg to a single leg and penetrates through on her shots, Roxanne Modafferi grabs, gets hurt, and ends up on her back, and then will roll to an advantageous position. It's much different ways of getting to the ground or getting on the ground and then working off the ground. So give me Andrea Lee decision here. Minus 320 is steep. I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but Modafferi's shown us that big odds mean nothing to her and she's going out there and fight. And that's all you want from a fighter. So you got to respect that. And for that, you can take a shot on Modafferi and not be wrong. But I'm going with Lee.
Our fans know that I'm a KGB hater. I don't know if I ever picked her in a fight. And I don't really, I've picked her before, but I haven't picked her in a while. And I don't think I'm going to change now. At 125, she is not the bigger woman. I think Roxanne is going to be stronger and bigger here. I do think she's going to be able to get KGB down. And I think because she is one of the women that has a kind of tight wrestling game, she's been able to work on her striking and throw in little tricks here and there. Roxanne, her last fight, she looked off to me. Like, she didn't look great. She didn't look like herself out there. And I know she's not somebody who's ever going to be a contender, but I've always kind of felt like KGB Lee's overrated and Roxanne Modafferi's better as an underdog. So I'm going to pick Roxanne Modafferi here by a dirty decision. I think she's going to have the better ring IQ. I think she's going to get her down when she needs to right at the end of the round, and then it's going to be close enough on strikes to like JoJo Calderwood didn't try to get KGB down one time. It was just a striking match, and she outstruck her. And then look at JoJo Calderwood right now. You know, it's like, oh, JoJo maybe didn't look as great as we thought.
She got submitted in the first round.
but that's even more. They just didn't, her,
right.
Yeah, they just didn't bang. She didn't have to worry about it at all. I think Roxanne has strength. I think she has grindability, and I think as the fight goes on, Roxanne's gonna have the better cardio. So give me Roxanne Modafferi. I'm gonna go with Juice's girl.
Absolutely in there.
I think
Absolutely
she
there.
is all-American, geek to the Comic-Con extreme, and I love it.
When people are hipster geeks and nerds and they're all trendy and actually like cool and they call themselves nerds and geek, Roxanne Modafferi is the actual epitome of a nerd and a geek, the real life. But she's such a badass UFC fighter that it's also meant in a positive way.
Like, if you asked Roxanne Modafferi what she's reading right now, she would tell you more than one book.
Absolutely. And half of them would be anime. So that's not bad. It's just her, which I absolutely love. And on DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the decided favorite here, 8,900 against Modafferi, 7,300. Are you going to be playing Modafferi for 7-3 here?
I am a little bit. She's never been a high scorer on DraftKings.
Truth.
But KGB Lee is just a big disappointment. And I don't know. She must have burned me somewhere. Damn
I think
you,
it's all in the
KGB
nickname.
Lee.
It's all in the nickname. Here for 8,900, KGB Lee averages 72 points. The Modafferi's 57. So I think it's a low score. We both kind of see decision out of both of them. So I think KGB probably gets 50 points striking plus the 30. She'll maybe average 80 points. That's 70 points. It's not going to be enough to pay her off for that high price. There's bets for some of these finishes than Lee. And again, I think that's one I'm going to probably end up steering clear of as far as DraftKings. I don't see a lot of points being scored on either side of that fight.
Concur.
At 155 pounds, we have the co-main event of the evening. Kama Worthy coming in against Otman Azatar. Azatar, the Moroccan fighter, coming in with a perfect 12-0 record, last beating Timu Paklin a year ago. Prior to that, being the Brave champion in there, being known to have one of the bloodiest fights of all time. Brave, it was a joke. I mean, one of them got a bloody nose, and they're like, the humanity. It was like literally not even a cut on anyone's face. It was nuts that they labeled it that. I think it was a mark against Martinez, but either way, Azatar coming in as a big puncher. He wrestles. He's Moroccan, coming out of Jupa's fight team. He has a solid overhand right, and he likes to throw that Frankie Edgar outside knee pick when he gets in close from that right. If he doesn't land that right, he'll cup the back of the head and immediately go for a takedown. But it's been against journeyman brave level guys, and even as Evil Twin was saying, Packlin, even though I bet him a couple times, he is a no chin as no chin goes. Kessie knocked him out, I believe, as well with the same overhand right, where Packlin, though, goes stiff and he stays out for minutes at a time. So I believe he's retired from the sport because his doctors were like, we don't want to see that anymore, dude. So Azatar big win is really skewing this line. I think a lot of people are thinking that maybe Packlin was a good guy or maybe his reign opponents were, but they weren't. Commonworthy's had a much, much harder upbringing here in the States against actual competition. He did lose to a lot of them, but if you look a lot of those names he lost to, they're all winning records. No, all those guys would be Azatar's competition easily there. And where Azatar usually falls back on his wrestling, if he doesn't get that knockout shot, like I was saying before, Kama Worthy's training with the Penn State wrestling team, notoriously been one of the better wrestling teams in this nation of wrestlers. So he's been in there putting in work. I've seen him on some of the background in some of those training sessions. And tell me what other breakdown art, what other Instagram followers are telling you this kind of stuff. I mean, Evil Twin didn't even know that. And I held it for you guys. Letting you guys know now. Commonworthy's going to be able to handle himself on the ground a lot more than people think. And the line skewed here. Minus 135 is undervaluing Commonworthy here. He should be a much bigger favorite. And I'm going to be looking to place him everywhere. If I don't have a submission, I think I'm going to go TKO round number 2 because he does go for it. Kama understands, as Evil Twin saying, he's not trying to make a boring fight. He wants to go kill or be killed in there. That means he's got a lot of highlights. And right now, against low-level opponents or low-level guys, just like Pena, he's going to be able to blow him out of the water. And I think he's going to do that here. Give me a TKO round number 1. Kama Worthy. I talked myself into it. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this co-main event of the evening?
You convince me in every way, except I just want to go with submission round number 1. I think he's going to hurt him and then catch him. I think he's going to hurt him. Azatar's first instinct is going to be to go for that single or double leg after he's hurt, and then he's going to get caught up in a submission.
Hey, it just ended up happening against Pena, so you're not there in the tape you've been studying. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the slight favorite, 8,500 against Azatar, 7,700. I'm not looking to play Azatar, even though Evil Twin's saying Azatar could get the knockout because Worthy's been finished. I'm not betting on that. I'm actually going in 80% Worthy. I'm going to have to keep him off card, especially if anything falls out. I feel like I'm going to have salary relief. I feel like I'm going to have money left over because I'm picking these Hermans, picking these underdogs that do have shots in here. So Worthy's going to be the 8-5. I'm going to have more than enough salary to put him in spots. Again, I can't put him on everything because that's not good. But I am going to be, as you guys are saying, underwhelmed waiting to put my real money on that Covington Woodley fight card. Where do you think you're going on DraftKings with this one?
I'm realizing as you're saying it, I'm really gonna just probably only do 3 cards on DraftKings, maybe a dollar card, and save my money for next week's fight card. Everything's just so I don't know enough about all the fighters that I really want to pick, like Kama Worthy. It's weird to put him on 80% of my fight cards. I like everything about him, but I do like Azatar too. I don't think he's just a journeyman dude. I do like him in the division going forward. So I'm probably going to maybe just play him on like 50% of the cards. For the cost, he's one of those 8,000 guys. I like to call that like the Mike Perry. He's like that Mike Perry cost guy where I don't see him getting finished right away. Speaking of, did you see Mike Perry's haircut?
I did not.
It's shaved.
Oh, bald. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I did see that. I thought it was something cool. I thought it was going to be pink or like neon or something. I did see that. A buzz cut, is it a haircut?
Well, he doesn't.
Or do you just cut
for
your
a
hair?
guy like Mike Perry, he needed less peacocking.
Right.
Like he seemed like somewhere he needed to readjust his whole persona a little bit. He was feeling himself and starting to get into trouble, and it was seeming like a hot road, just turning up. So maybe he needed to just cleanse, shave his head, and redo his persona a little bit.
Hey, Daddy Platinum Perry's coming real soon. In the next 7 to 6 months or something like that.
He's making little cubic zirconians.
Right. Absolutely under pressure in there for sure. So that's a whole story we're going to see later on, I bet. In the main event of the evening, we're going to have the profile UFC on ESPN plus 35, also known as Vegas 10. Angela Hill coming in against Michelle Waterson. This is going to be a 5-rounder. These ladies were moved up because Glover Teixeira fell out of his bout, and these ladies got moved in the spot, and rightfully so. This feels like it's a main event for these ladies. They rightfully deserve to be here. Waterson being 17-8, coming off of a 2-fight losing streak to Young Jacek and Esparza, split decision 3 months ago. We know what we're getting with the Albuquerque fighter, the 34-year-old mom champ in there. His last win was KK a year ago. Felice Herring and Courtney Casey. She's a karate fighter in there. She will throw the takedown, that stepping outside knee trip, which I really like. She will throw it, but she throws it maybe once a fight. And then the last 2 fights we've seen, we really haven't seen her get her game plan going. She couldn't use that wrestling, and Esparza finally showed good striking. Where Waterson she throws a lot of volume, but a lot of it's short. She's the type of fighter like, who's his freaking main?
Oh.
No, because Tornado hits with more accuracy, more like Elias Theradoa, where she will throw a 3-punch combination that won't even be close to hitting just to throw it out there. Where Angela Hill's finally stepped into that range. She's 12-8 coming off of a loss in a controversial one against Claudia Gadelia. Again, those takedowns being the biggest issue for her, but really just showing that this short amount of time, not only is she coming into her own, but she does better fighting more recent. She is a Muay Thai fighter. I think she's going to have a record for most fights in a year. I think it's going to be on 5 or 6 now. Within a year, this will be her 5th fight. I think it might be 6 with Neil Magny. So she could maybe squeeze one in depending on how this goes. But again, 5 rounds. We watched Waterson's fight against JJ, and I feel like in real life, and even on TV, we've just finally started to see the mom champ slow down in there. That output, as much she is tricky, but she doesn't put you in danger. She doesn't hit you. She doesn't have that amount of volume. She's usually a 105er that finally supposedly filled in a 115, but she's a tiny lady in there. I feel like Angela Hill is a real 115er, and it's going to really show in there. If it gets to the ground, which I doubt it will, I feel like
We have never, ever
Angela Hill
seen
will be
Michelle
able to get
Waterson
back
fight
up
at
there.
105. There is no 105. We've been
But she
watching this.
can't. She
Well, she's
can't.
tiny, but she's built AF. When you watch her on the scales, she is stocky. Stocky.
I don't
She's
know.
got that
Her
Holly
legs have
Holm.
looked defined in a not good defined way, though, unfortunately. I just feel like she's filling into the mom moniker where Angela Hill's on her way up. I don't see a finish because Waterson's too tough in there. If someone would finish you, it'd be JJ. And we saw JJ land this leg strike record that would finish most other ladies in there. And I think Angela Hill can do something like that. But I do see it going to decision. And I do think the minus 130s, rightfully so. I just think it's going to be a little more volume with a little more power. They're both 34, but one's on the way up and one's on the way down. And I think Hill's on the way up and Waterson's on the way down. So give me the Alliance fighter on a roll right now, even though she's coming off of a loss. Waterson gets 3. And then is she out of here after that? Or does she have enough name power to stay in it? Betch got taken out after 3, so I got to believe this Betch better be on the cutting board.
I don't think so. I wouldn't think she's on the cutting board because one of hers was for she's been in the main event. This isn't her first main event.
Truth.
Like, name value has to mean something a little bit, but I am a little biased. It says here on Tapology that Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill are the same height. Angela Hill's a little lady. She's a real tiny little lady too, and she
seems more muscular.
But don't you think her body's gotten better as we've watched this progressive Angela Hill?
And Waterson hasn't.
Well, she did have her kid quickly, but I always feel like Michelle Waterson looks ripped AF. And I do follow Holly Holm, so I watched some of their little dance videos when they were doing that things, and I thought she was cut up. Michelle Waterson, she lays a lot of output, and sometimes Angela Hill's a sleeper and a slow starter. She does not start out fast, and also Angela Hill gets super winded. We know Michelle Waterson can go 5. We know Michelle Waterson can go 5 with JJ, and she has 0 quit in her. When we were watching her in that fight, that was one of those fights where you're just like, ugh, it was brutal to watch after a point, and she just kept taking it and taking it. I love Angela Hill. I do not put her on JJ level of striking.
Agreed.
Like, nowhere near in the same caliber of level of striking. I don't put her in the same level of caliber of leg kicks. And I love Angela Hill. I agree. I think she's somebody that's on her way up. I just think Michelle Waterson, she has a little, the same way kind of Angela Hill, she has that same kind of stagnation with somebody with that killer wrestling. And we always talk about Esparza and Gadelia and how close, like, they're those 2 top female wrestlers of the 115. And that is their number one, it's both their losses. It's their number one kryptonite, but it's those 2 people's number one weapon. So I think we get a striking match here, and I am going to say, like, even ring IQ, corner-wise with Jackson Wink, I'm going to say round 4 and 5, I almost want to put, not in the can easily, but comfortably more for Michelle. So the first 3 rounds give me something to question. And I think they feel each other out kind of in the first. I think Angela Hill's going to want to conserve energy for the first time in a way because she hasn't been in this situation of this 5-round fight. So it's going to make her even more of a slower starter. I think Michelle can get in the inside. I think she can lay off some power strikes when need be. Angela Hill, if she ain't in the groove, she ain't in the groove. Like, when Michelle comes to work, she comes to work. I think Michelle's just been up there in the top tier for so long, why Angela Hill's been fighting people you can't even remember their names. And
True.
some of the people that she's fighting are people that were like questioning on whether or not they even have UFC oomph in them anymore. And so I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson here by a dirty decision. And I don't think it makes Angela Hill worse for doing it. I think they're both better after this fight. And I think it's one of those fights. I don't know who fights Michelle Waterson and doesn't walk away, where it's like a really good feeling in the octagon afterwards. And I think it'll be a kind of fun fight for women's MMA. I think it'll be a fun striking match.
So Waterson lands 3 strikes per minute compared to the 5 for Hill, but the accuracy is actually a 52% to the 49 against Hill, and the defense is actually 64% for Hill compared to the 48% strike defense to Waterson's. But we're saying with the caliber, as you're saying, if JJ fought Angela Hill, same would happen to Angela Hill, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it kind of exactly. The only thing difference is, would Angela Hill take a beating for 25 full minutes?
I think she would at this point.
And I think one of those rounds, Waterson did eke out. I think it was a 4-1 Waterson.
Yeah.
I don't know if Angela Hill would have gotten around on JJ.
It's definitely a different Angela Hill is what I'm baking on a little bit more here. But the only other way the stats are a little bit more skewed here is with the takedowns. Waterson has an almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, where Angela Hill has only 0.5. So half a takedown per 15. So Waterson has that availability, and she does have a 50% takedown accuracy, and Hill does give up takedowns. So Waterson has a couple more avenues where we're just going to see Hill striking here.
But if Waterson uses it to like wear down that cardio and then like take over as the fight goes on, that's where it gets. The one thing I will say for Hill, we watched Hill take 6 fights in a year last year because of coronavirus. She's had to delay that a little bit, and I almost wonder if that's not better for her. Like, we're getting to watch her change up her game plan a little bit. Maybe she learned a couple of other tricks, like she was. And I also, at this division, they're not taking the head trauma, so it is a little easier for her to take these fights back to back. But if she's in a war like Waterson was in a war against JJ, you got to take some time off. And it's been a bit of time since we've seen like Hill in that kind of war. And Waterson always comes to go to war.
Sure.
Everyone looks busted up when they leave a Michelle Waterson fight. She looks busted up too. Like, she's she's one of the exciting 115ers to watch.
I'm definitely
and like you're saying too, I
that.
totally agree. Angela Hill on the way up. She's definitely one of the exciting 115ers that I've really enjoyed. Did they fight on the same card for us last time? When JJ fought Waterson, wasn't Angela Hill on the undercard of that?
I can double check real quick. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I would remember.
Was that the same card with Steamroller Frivola on it?
Frivola was for sure on it, but I can look up that fight card real quick. And we ended up not having. We had Dern's Rebus on there. That was a fun one.
We have
that was a good fight
seen
card.
Angela Hill though, right?
Aldridge Mueller. I have not seen Angela Hill fight in my lifetime.
Then I haven't either.
So, what a fun fight card. I'm excited. Overall, do you have it? Actually, we didn't even go over the DraftKings on this one. Angela Hill, 8,200 minus 135 favorite against Waterson's 8,000 even. Average points, 59 for Hill against Waterson, 63. Do you think you're going to have exposure to either one of these ladies? And it's a 5-rounder. That much more time to get that much more strikes in there. So some people are stacking these. I don't feel myself necessarily doing that, but because it is 5 rounds, I do see myself having a bit more exposure to this fight than I would if it was a 3-rounder, just because that's definitely a lot of points plus 30 at the end of all of it.
I think if both ladies Michelle Waterson might mess around depending on her corner, like you're saying. She might mess around with the takedown here or there. But I think if both ladies get to stay on their feet, and it's a little, I don't hate Angela Hill. She is like a lesser JJ in ways to me. And I don't think that's a bad. She's better than KK, though. I think Angela Hill beats KK all day right now. So it's like when I look at some of Waterson's wins, I'm like, Angela Hill could get that win too. I think both ladies are going to like relish in the fact they can stay on their feet a little bit.
It's an interesting stylistic matchup, and would I've wanted to see Glover Teixeira in a main event? I don't know. I feel like this 5 rounds is really a fun fight and can really be a classic on here. Potentially a fight of the night contender.
Did the fact that Angela Hill's grandparents were abducted by aliens, did that have anything to do with your decision?
Slightly, but yes, slightly. Again, I'm going with that alien blood.
She's a little bit gray alien.
Absolutely in there. So, definitely a fun fight at nights. If you want to be following to get some more picks in there throughout the week, feel free to ask for questions at Zol tonight on the Twitterverse at Weakneck Baby to get all that deep Billy Q info, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, make sure you're following us. It is also this week on Friday is the anniversary of 9/11.
Never forget.
Never forget. So it's a good time to maybe call a friend of yours that was a conspiracy theorist and ask them what their opinion of that what day was. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
So
yeah. But
definitely a wait.
And out west, I hope the fire is everywhere. It seems like the world's on fire right now. So all the good energy.
It's nuts.
Rain dance energy.
How do you think those Antifa guys are going to do in the woods in all their tents?
I don't know. I wonder if George Soros will just send them new ones. Boom.
That's where we get banned.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So be safe out there. If you go camping, make sure you put out your fire. And if you have a gender reveal, eat a cupcake or something. You don't need
make a cake. Jesus. Good point.
Or just do it the old-fashioned way. Keep it between yourselves. Why is everything such a big social media happening? Like, start a Twitch channel.
What a sign off. I love it.
Yeah. So be safe out there. Love you. And that's all I have to say.
Let me